Hello again, MMA True Believers. I am Jason Burgos for Sherdog.com, and I am joined by one of my favorite guys to talk to. Because even though he will drop bombs and is a bulldog in the cage, the man is a sweetheart of a human being. On June 20th, he returns to the Octagon in a fight that should be all kinds of fun against Matt Frevola, and that man is the Crank himself, Frank Camacho, Senor Crank. What is up, and thanks for the time tonight.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you again, brother. Hell yeah, man. Always a in the show, dude.
Now, pleasure's all mine. I have quite a few questions for you. So, heading into this fight you have coming up, it could be said that you're in a tough spot. You know, a loss would mean 2 straight, which isn't a bad thing. But big picture, another loss would be 4 out of 5. I talked to Tim Elliott before his last fight and asked him about job security if he had lost a 3rd straight. He felt that if he put on a performance-winning fight, a performance, like a performance bonus winning kind of effort in his fight, he didn't have any, any worries. Now you have won 3 bonuses in your UFC career. Do you feel if doing the same and at worst you get a bonus in a losing effort, then you feel pretty secure in your spot because Dana White is always holding up guys that put on a show like yourself?
Wow, I never thought of it like that. That is a very interesting. That is very interesting, and it makes 100% sense. Shoot, I mean,
Did I just take pressure off of you? Did I just help you?
yeah. No, thanks for putting more pressure on me, pal.
My pleasure.
Yeah, yeah. No, dude. Man, honestly, just get back in there and just freaking try to get that W. Like, learned a lot, even though it was a short time against Benil Dariush. But it was like one of those things where I was like, yo, man, I just need to pull the trigger and give Matt Frevola everything that I got right off the bat, and hey, his fight name is a steamroller, and he comes out like that all the time. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be how do I find control in that chaos?
Yeah.
But then again, it's a fight, man. So it's like anything can happen.
For what I've been told, there is a pressure in every UFC fight, and a common thing I have heard so many times is your next fight is your biggest fight. But of course, just on a competitive level, I know you want to get back to winning, but here is the interesting line the Crank must walk, in my opinion, going to this fight. Do you fight like you always have? Fight the way that got you into the UFC, got you 3 bonuses, got you a lot of fans of the sport, or have you said in the lead up to this, look, I've lost 4 out of 6 in the UFC. I need to, keep evolving forward, even if it's not as pleasing for the fans. Which would you say your mindset going into this fight is? Do you need evolution, or do you got to go with what got you here?
Wow, that is such a great question, bro. That's probably one of the best questions I've gotten like since
Thank
I've been.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And the answer to that is that I'm so lucky that Colin and Timo Yama
Mhm.
have not changed my fighting style at all. They've helped me like with techniques to complement my fight style. So all I got to do is I got to bring the crank and just trust in the training and trust in the drilling sessions that we've been doing for months and weeks, so um sorry, Matt, the crank's coming full force.
In one of our conversations, I think maybe the first one, you talked about, and I'm glad you brought Team Oyama up because you talked about when you moved to there, it was a huge help to your progress going forward. What
Mhm.
have you been doing in this camp, skills training wise, to prepare for Matt? Has it been status quo to what has been kind of the usual for your last part for the course for your last few camps, or has there been some new additions, some adjustments, some things you've done differently in this camp, especially coming off the loss?
No, I think it's more so we're continuing to do the stuff that coach really wants to see my style develop into. If anything, the biggest mistake I made the last fight was my approach to the fight.
Hmm.
I was a little too patient because I was so fascinated with how patient I was and how methodical I was against Nick Hine that maybe I was a little too
Hmm.
passive, and
Okay.
I gave Benil an inch, and he took a mile. That's
Yeah.
what he does. Man, you're not a formally ranked guy for not being able to adjust like that, right?
Yeah.
So that was a very big learning lesson. that I feel I'm going to be taking into this next fight. I think either way with this fight, though, if I was to try to be as passive as I can, or as I would, I don't think Matt Frevola would let me, because of
No.
his fighting style. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of one of those fights, man, and it's a fun one,
Hmm.
and the matchmakers know what they're doing with this one.
Hmm. Frevola is like the thesis of a grinder. He isn't a power puncher, a precision striker. He isn't a grappling ace. He's solid everywhere, but this is a dude that can just outwork people. That's his calling cards. It's just meat, steak and potatoes kind of guy. But in a
Yeah,
lot of ways, this seems like a great matchup for you. You have a serious experience edge over him as well. How do you make that experience play for you in this fight? Because I'm sure he's not bringing anything you haven't seen already.
yeah, yeah. So it's definitely experience, and not getting into the game plan. We have a bunch of different things set, but I feel that he's gonna pull out the grit and the will, out of me, which is I feel what he does with a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
I guess the answer to that is really like, now it's gonna really work the martial arts side of how having to stay calm in chaotic situations, and really use my experience, right, like of all my fights put together to 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 get this W. He does a lot of he's not real skilled anywhere, but he puts it all together really well with a big
Yeah.
gas tank.
Yeah. Would and then I wanted to bring this up too because like going back to the Team Oyama, going there, progressing forward, evolving, like you said, just making certain tweaks to the style you already have. But in the last fight, you mentioned like you were over patient. You did something well in one fight, took it to the next, and it didn't work out for you. Is that kind of like the next evolution for the Crank in that? You are a veteran. You can read a fight, you read what a guy's doing, but now that you're getting more tools than you ever had before, is that kind of the next, like, kind of the IQ level of it? Now you have to know, okay, I have these various tools that work, but just figuring out, okay, this puzzle needs this tool, that tool for last fight doesn't work. Is that kind of like the evolution that you're going through, especially knowing of your toolbox, what to use, when to use it?
More so the approach of the mindset approach of the fight, like
Mm,
just going in there, get it freaking started, and trust in the tools that I have.
okay.
If
Going
that makes
back to, yeah, no, no, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally, yeah. Especially when I'm guessing when you're making changes, are you thinking like, okay, I made this change. Maybe what I didn't do before wasn't quite the thing. I'm gonna go with this change. Just you're
yeah,
trusting everything you've done.
yeah,
In the
yeah.
past
Or
that's
just
worked.
going in there and be like, man, should I try this? Should I try this combination? Man, like, nah, man,
Mm.
fuck it, dude. Fucking go. Let's just go. Pull the trigger and let's go. And I think that's the mindset I'm going into these next few fights.
Going back to the idea of him being a grinder, this is sort of a fight where you need your cardio to be on point. Has there been any adjustments in your strength and conditioning to take that much, to an even higher level, and so you don't get outworked? Not to say you have questionable heart cardio, but this is the strength of him, his cardio, his push. Do you have to make adjustments in strength and conditioning kind of at all, or is it pretty much status quo with those kind of things?
Um, Man, we only had like 4 weeks, when we found this
True.
fight. So
Yeah.
it's actually all quarantine strength conditioning. I'm so lucky that I was able to really work on cardio and everything, because there's not really much you can do during quarantine. Man, I was mountain biking, I'm
Yeah.
killing hills, I'm running, bag work, everything, like uh more so to stay in shape. But man, you can only do so much in quarantine. I was like, man, oh gosh, I'm gonna go outside, do some jumping jacks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm outside. Okay, I'm gonna do some yard work, but I'm gonna dig holes for like 3 5-minute rounds as hard as I can. So it was kind of cool. And my wife and I, we talk about it all the time. Whenever we talk on the phone, it's like, well, it actually really paid off that we stayed in shape, because it's the last thing that you want to be worrying about against a guy like this.
Yeah. You haven't fought since October, and the pandemic has put most of the planet on pause at various times at various places. In the last few months, your Instagram was full of pictures in beautiful places, doing fun things, having a good time. Did
Yeah.
you choose to like kind of step away, take a couple months in the last since the last fight, clear the head a little bit, enjoy life some more, or is that stuff just normal days in the awesome life of Frank Camacho, and you are just purposely making us all jealous?
That honestly, that's so funny because I was just looking at my Instagram earlier, and yeah, honestly, it's that's a normal day, like I'm really blessed, brother. I'm really
Yeah.
blessed where I'm from, and um, yeah, I mean, in between all of those photos and moments, it's you have diaper changes, you have chasing around a 4-year-old and playing tag, you know what I mean? But in between all of that, man, that's the island boy, and in between that, I'm training, so I'm just really really blessed, and especially because I travel, to all these different places for fights, it makes me appreciate home even more.
Because you're such a relaxed guy, grateful, humble. Let's say worst case scenario, and I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this, but let's say it doesn't work out, and you were somehow released from the UFC. And I was just talking to Gina Mazzoni, and she was talking about how when she was released, it hurt her, and really took. Would a release really be bad for you, or not really? Like, I mean, like, because you're just such a relaxed guy, such a cool guy. Would it be a thing that you feel any pressure for? Life is what it is. There's something else for me in the world if this doesn't work out in the UFC. There's someplace else to fight.
I would be bummed, bro. I'll
Mm.
be super bummed. Because I have goals set for my career. Like, I eventually want to. I really want to, crack into like the top 15 within the
Mm.
next year. I have goals set. As a competitor, as a martial artist. Hey man, but some things just don't turn out the way they are, and things are never as good as they seem, or things are never as bad as they seem.
True.
So take life in stride, and like, I mean, knock on wood, right? I break my leg, and and will never fight again. I have the skills and the experience that I could eventually, like, maybe take photos for the UFC, you know what I mean, or
Mm.
take photos for fighters, or tell stories, or expand my knowledge. So there's always a way, man, and I I like to pride myself that the glass is always half full. You
Now,
know?
going back to talking about where you're from and stuff like that, you come from the Mariana Islands, so I was curious about something because those islands are so out there, all to themselves in a lot of ways. We are going through some serious times here in the U.S. in terms of like social upheaval and stuff like that. What is it like in the Mariana? Is there even racism there? Do people just get together better because they don't subscribe to the racist nonsense? Is that even a thought there, or even in the Mariana, there's you got to deal with that stuff too?
Oh, you got to deal with it. I think I feel like you got to deal
Wow.
with it, man. And I think probably in the Marianas, it's such a melting pot. It's kind of like it's it's kind of hard to explain. Like, how do I say this? It's such a melting pot. You get so many people from different places, different, so many different cultures. Uh, and then as a native, you have so much people, or you have, there's a, man, it's just a melting pot, but there's just, you're so exposed to many different cultures, and many different, like, ethnicities and everything, to say that there's no racism in the islands, it would be a lie, you know what I mean?